All right, perfect. I appreciate it. Hi, I'm Ciara with Agile. We are part of GEE along with Ben. I have been recruiting for the past couple of years, and I just moved over into a marketing and outreach role, which is trying to connect with all of you. And I'm fortunate enough to have Ben co-hosting with me. So Ben, go ahead, take it.
Hey, I'm Benjamin Sheffield. I'll be the main, I guess you could say, recruiting speaker today. Obviously, Ciara's here to help me buffer any rough edges along the way here, but just wanted to take a moment just to introduce myself as well. I've been in the business now for about 10 years as an in-desk recruiter. I actually got my start in this industry about 5 years previously working for Career Builder, supporting recruiters nationwide. So a lot of history, a lot of experience in and around this field, and look forward to bringing some good insights to you all today. So.
Awesome. Are you ready to kind of dive into it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll let you kind of lead it, and we'll jump in together from that point.
All right. Well, I was going to say, so the purpose of this workshop in general is to help job seekers with different aspects of their job hunt. So this month in particular, we're going to be deep diving in on LinkedIn. We do have the chat as well as a Q&A open. So we will do a dedicated Q&A at the end, but throughout the course of the call, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, pop them into the chat, preferably related to the topic or adjacent to the topic. So let's go ahead, dive right in. Ben, why LinkedIn? Give it to me.
I'll give kind of a broader view, and then we'll kind of narrow down to the three things we're going to be talking about today. So I personally believe that LinkedIn is the most impactful networking resource and tool out there, period, because the entire world is on LinkedIn. It covers pretty much any industry or geography that you can touch. It's a massive repository of ideas and networking opportunities and people in general, right? So I think it's important to have a strong presence on LinkedIn, whether you're a recruiter like myself or an accountant or whatever, right? In any industry you can think of, it'll help you out on that front. Really, what we're going to do today is we're going to tackle it from three angles. The first thing we're going to talk about today is really how to optimize your profile. Make sure that you've got a fully optimized story of yourself from a professional standpoint, that you are being seen and being viewed in the right way by individuals that can help you impact in your career from a job search perspective, or even just from a networking perspective, which we'll go into that a little bit as well. We'll also talk a little bit about networking strategies today, how to reach out to employers, how to reach out to hiring managers, how to connect and just be active on LinkedIn in general, playing well in the pond, building your network, and then kind of advancing yourself in that capacity through this resource. The last thing that we'll talk about is really more on the lines of company and job research, right? If you aren't active in the job market, as obviously this presentation is tailored toward, how to use LinkedIn as a tool to help you maximize your functionalities around those processes, right? Looking for companies, doing your research, applying for roles, etc. So kind of a three-headed monster there, but that's really how we're going to be approaching it today. Ciara, do you have anything else that you want to add to that before we dive into the optimization side?
No, I think you covered it. And I think what differentiates LinkedIn, I know we didn't talk about this offline before, but it is a combination of social media and a job board, right? So
Yep.
It's the only platform that I'm aware of that has that duality. And I think that's why we're both so drawn to it now.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, I'll tell you this much. LinkedIn has greatly impacted my career, not just as a recruiter, but just in terms of helping me build connections and meaningful attachments out there in the world. And certainly the social media aspect of it is definitely a big part of that. Being able to interact, being able to connect, but obviously doing so in a professional fashion, as we would advise on LinkedIn. The first thing that we'll talk about today really is just more or less optimizing your profile. What an optimized profile looks like, how to utilize it, how to engage it, how to build it, and make it work for you. And there's several things that I would say that build up components on what I would consider to be a fully optimized profile. The very first thing I always talk about is having a professional profile photo, right? One that's going to be relevant to your career, your industry, that's going to speak about you, and not just in a, hey, here is Ciara, but in a professional presentation of yourself, right? From that standpoint, very important, I think, to have a good profile picture that is professional. If you look at mine, I think I'm wearing this vest actually, and then a button-down shirt with a tie. I'm a professional recruiter that obviously plays well to that pond. Certainly that, if you've got a blurry picture, if you're in a party setting or things of that nature, probably not the best photo for you. Ciara, do you have any thoughts that you want to throw on the professional photo side?
Yes. So I actually put up a poll last week, and I was asking, what do you notice first on somebody's profile? And this was just other connections, not specifically hiring managers, but overwhelming profile photo was the answer. So when I'm in the recruiting seat and I'm looking, I'm not pulling up your profile and analyzing it, but just having a picture there shows me that you are a real person, first of all, because there are a lot of fake profiles on LinkedIn. And it it kind of gives a flavor or an idea, like it humanizes you, right? The other thing I would say is think of your profile picture as something that you could put up in your company, but also within another company. So here at Agile, we are, GE in general, we're pretty casual for internal chats. Like people have pictures of them with their kids and their dogs and whatnot as their Slack profile. But on LinkedIn, if I'm applying for a job at, Button Up Bank, I want to look very, very professional. I don't want my dog in my picture. I don't want an AI generated picture. I don't want just a picture of a certificate. I would like to see a picture of you. Agreed?
Agreed, and wholly agreed and endorsed on my end there. One underutilized thought when it comes to the profile pictures at the top portion of it. You've got your profile picture, obviously, and then you've got the banner photo that sits behind it. One thing I like to see in a banner profile is either like a very professional company watermark or logo there. If you don't want to do that, maybe you're an independent producer or proprietor on your end. Have your contact information in there. Make it something that would be like your cell phone number or your email address or whatever, right? Have something that's going to be relevant and professionally tying that page to you beyond your profile picture. I see that tip out there a lot as well. I know I'm not the only one that says that, but I just really like having a good, strong banner photo as well. My banner photo, I'm going to be honest, it might be halfway on the professional scale. If you look at my LinkedIn profile, you'll see the mountains from my hometown where I'm from. That just gives me a little bit of a warm feeling to see that. But yes, like if you're looking to kind of build out a fully optimized profile, one thing to consider would be having like again, company watermark, company logos, something that's going to speak further to yourself as a professional. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, and if you guys go on Canva, there are a ton of free templates. I'm sure there's other websites that do it as well. Totally free. You just have to put your email in and you can have like a vast number of templates that you can choose from. And they're really clean, chic, professional, and it's really easy to do. So it's not just that gray box that says, I don't really care about my LinkedIn. It's really going to attention grab. Mine now is the last Friday job party banner, but before I used to highlight that like I have my master's degree in there. So I don't have my initials after my name. Like I don't have Ciara MBA, but they were up in my profile. So I just kind of like, you know, popped them up in there to make sure employers got them.
We'll go down the LinkedIn page a little bit and talk about headlines and summaries next. The headline portion is obviously right below your profile picture. It's got your name and then like that little space where you can type a summary of who you are in short form. Sales leader, dynamic, blah, 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 right? Along those lines. Keep in mind a couple of things, beginning with the headline section. LinkedIn operates off of what we call basically it's a keyword optimization model. So they're looking for things that are very relevant to the nature of work that you do when employers, hiring managers are out there searching for you, recruiters are out there searching for you. So in that headline section, I would certainly have something that ties directly to my career. I think mine refers to obviously me being a recruiter and the work that I do for Autism Speaks on the side. But yeah, like I'd have sales leader, I'd have accountant, I would have, software developer or whatever. Make sure that that's in the headline. Moving down from that, you're going to get into your summary. The summary is really your professional introduction of yourself in your own words. And I'm a very firm believer that folks who write compelling summaries about who they are, what they do professionally, their passions for their work, and how those things are layered into your story. I think that those things matter, right? And I certainly read them as a recruiter, but I want to see something beyond, hey, this person's been a Java developer for 5 years at XYZ company. I want to know a little bit about that individual as well. It's obviously important to be professional within that space. I would also say that your communication skills can start to be looked at there as well, and for obvious reasons. So just make sure it's clean, no typos, very well organized and structured in terms of how you're utilizing that space. I think that's a very important thing to do with that. Any thoughts on your side, Ciara?
Yeah, throw it into Chat GPT or something, have it spell checked. Everybody knows my biggest weakness is I cannot spell three-letter words, like life dependent on it. So just make sure you do that. And I would say, similar to the advice I give people on interviews, you want to keep it professional, but I say throw a few like high-level personal details in there. So you have your volunteer work with Autism Speaks. Mine talks about how I do a lot of foster work with a local rescue, Love for Paws. I have a link for them in there. So just something that is going to give a little bit of a flavor of who you are.
It makes you more human, right? To go back to that
Yeah.
phrase that we talked about earlier. No, I firmly agree with that. Um, Getting down from there and obviously going into the experience section, we'll talk a little bit about that. You want to have really a few things in play here. One, obviously, the companies that you work for, make sure that your information here is translatable to your resume. And then we'll speak to that a little bit further down the line, I believe, in this conversation here. But certainly if you've worked at your current organization from May of 2021 till now, make sure that lines up with your resume, make sure the information is accurate. The further you get into a job search process, people are going to be checking that out as they're doing background checks and employment checks on you, right? So you don't want to be too far off when it comes to to that arena. When it comes to the job titles portion, I don't see this as often now. I used to see it more, but I will speak to it. Uh, Focus on having an optimized job title as well. I'll give an example. I've seen things like customer success coach in a LinkedIn job title portion. Now, that could very well be your job title even with your company. When employers or when hiring managers are looking for individuals like yourself, that's probably not going to be something they're going to search as much as maybe an account manager or a customer success manager or things of that nature. I would have probably a little bit more direct and searchable job titles in that area just for that. And keep in mind, again, they're searchable, take into consideration that, yes, companies do title things differently, but you want to go for probably a little bit more of a universal title on LinkedIn. Um, that's kind of my thought there. Ciara, do you have anything that you want to throw on that?
I know we have a controversial opinion on this, but I coach people to change their job titles, obviously, to something parallel and equal, right?
Sure.
Don't put
Right.
that you were the CIO of a company if you were a developer one. We'll catch that real quick. But yes, if you are like your job title is, developer for XYZ, something really specific, you can bring it back. Just say software engineer or Java developer, something along those lines. Again, as Ben mentioned, this is based on keywords. It's based on what recruiters are searching for. You want those words to pop up in your title. And with that, as you were mentioning with the background checks, one of our clients specifically, if they are very, very particular, they will bring your resume up, they will bring your LinkedIn up, and they will look at the dates. So they better match up, if not exactly, really, really close, and just keep it up to date that way.
Yeah, and I'll speak a little bit further as to why companies do that and why even I do that on some level. Like, for one, it's an integrity and honesty factor on some levels. Like, if you're saying that you worked at a company from January of 21 till now, but when we actually call that company and find out that you were out of that organization in September, it does raise at least a yellow flag, if not a red flag, right? And so at the end of the day, just being forthright, being upfront with your work experience is going to be paramount to any opportunity that you could be out there pursuing. So just to give you a little bit of a word to the wise on that front. When it comes to the actual experience portions and getting beyond the job title, but getting more to the meat of what you've done in those roles, I almost tell people to treat that like a resume portion from LinkedIn to your resume. What I mean by that is obviously have your responsibilities and duties in there and day-to-day work, things that you were tasked to do in those roles, right? But I also think that it can be important to have your impact in those positions as well. If you've designed programs that have saved your company X number of dollars monthly over a period of time, I would have that on my LinkedIn. Things that you've done to really make a difference with your organization within the capacity of that role is always good to see from a recruitment standpoint. And going back to the keyword relevancy portion of it, having those relevant keywords and search terms. If you're a Java developer, make sure that you've listed all the Java technologies that you've used within the framework of that job, et cetera. in those bullet points on a job by job basis. It's kind of the broader strokes there. Thoughts?
Yeah, not to go back to what we did last month, and I will link that video. I'll link it in the chat after we get out of this if anybody didn't catch last month where we did a deep dive into resumes. But my first question, especially in very technical roles, is tell me what you do, but I don't want to hear the high level speak. I would like to know exactly what you do. What are
Nuts and
you
bolts.
building? What
Yep.
is the end goal? Like, explain it to me like I'm five almost. I want to know. I don't want the buzz, just the buzzwords. Anybody can list out, Java, JavaScript, type, blah, 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 blah. I would like to know I am building an app that is going to be used, for credit card verification, or I'm on this team that's implementing this project. And that's going to give you a lot of, I don't want to say validity. What's the word I'm looking for here, Ben?
Validity. We'll say validity.
Validity.
I'll say,
Yes,
there
thank
we
you.
go.
Validity. It's going to make you look like a real candidate. And it shows that you're involved in the project. You're not just kind of behind the scenes typing.
You'll see some other things down below the experience section. Obviously, education is going to be important. Make sure that you're accurately representing your education. I will say that with firm with
Yes.
firm intent. I bump into this a lot as a recruiter. And by the way, I even understand how this can be accidentally done. But if you've taken courses toward a bachelor's degree and your LinkedIn says you have a bachelor's degree, those are very different things, right? So, and you can even on LinkedIn, I got an accounting degree from FAU, Florida Atlantic University, or whatnot. Make sure that if you don't have that accounting degree, you can list, Florida Atlantic University, accounting major, and 90 hours credit or whatnot in there just to give an honest representation. But just don't do something that's going to get you into an awkward conversation at the very end of the recruiting process when they find out that you don't have that degree. So that's probably my big advice there. Any other thoughts on the education piece?
Yes, that is something that I also ran into so much. And you have to be honest. I know some people think that if we think they have the degree and they pass the challenges and the coding tests and the interviews, when we get to the end, they're going to be like, oh, we'll overlook it. And I'm not here to say whether or not, roles should require a bachelor's degree, but the fact of the matter is a lot of them do, and they do have it as a hard minimum. So if you are not meeting that minimum, by the time we get to the end of the interview process and they're doing those checks, if you don't have it, they're going to rule you out. They're not going to let you slide through. So please be very accurate on that. Some college is different than a bachelor's degree. If you have an associate's, you can list it that way. Otherwise, just list credits or courses.
And kind of in conjunction to the degree piece, we'll talk certifications for a moment. So I'll use a couple of examples. I see this on occasion, not as much now as I used to. I'll go back to the old school recruiter mindset there, where someone will say they're a CPA or a CISSP or whatever, right? But those certifications have expired. Now you can still say, hey, I was an active CPA from here to here. And I would do that. If you've held a CPA license, certainly let them know that, hey, I've had that in the past, or a technical certification of some sort. But just again, going back to the degree portion, to make sure that you've got your dates of activity, if it's not currently active, listed in there as well, or say inactive but have held. Secret clearances are another thing that I bump into from time to time. Sometimes people have a clearance that has expired, and you find out midway through the conversation that they've had an expired clearance, but they can easily get it back. Well, it's still not the same, right? So we have to make sure that we know that information. Some companies are going to treat that as a 50-50 ball, and they want to get to know you as a person. Some companies are it's required, it's a hard set. If you don't have it, unfortunately, it's not the right fit for them, right? So just want to make sure that we're being honest on that front as well. Thoughts?
Yes, list all of your certifications, list your everything, like have it there so it comes up when we search, but be clear about it. Because sometimes it is going to be a hard requirement, and if it's expired, you're not going to reach that. But a lot of times it's nice to have. So in the networking space, a lot we run into like CCNAs, and they're usually a nice to have. So even if you had one that expired 5 years ago, I would say 9 times out of 10 you're going to get that conversation because you had the keyword and it came up. But know that I know I can look at your profile and see that it's not currently active and it's not a hard requirement for this role, or I can discuss other roles with you that it's not the hard line for. So you have to remember, if you're reaching out to a staffing company like Agile, S&I, anybody in GEE, more often than not, we have a number of very similar roles that we can run through with you because we have multiple clients.
I'll speak one last thing to the certification piece. Honestly, if you've got certifications of any sort, get them on there. And I'm a believer in that too. I think certifications carry a lot of weight, even if it's not a required or even considered a nice to have. And most of the roles that I have, Having foundational certifications for a help desk role or a tech support role, fantastic. It shows that you've made that investment, that you've taken that time to to pursue that. I've talked with some folks who say, "Yeah, I'm kind of embarrassed. I don't want to list my A plus or my security plus because they think it's too low level." No, get it on there and make sure it's there and make sure it's accounted for. So I do think it'll help you far more than anything else in that regard. LinkedIn also has a skills section. I personally don't put a lot of weight on the skills side of it because I think that anyone can go on there and endorse you for public speaking or what have you in that framework. But utilize it if you see fit. I know you can pin some skills as well. I would certainly say that I would not have soft skills in there, that skill section. If you do use it, make sure it's relevant to the work that you do, just to have it there from that standpoint. Any thoughts on the skill sides here?
Yeah, it's not something that I put a lot of thought or weight into. I don't typically look through them because some people do list every skill that they've ever had in any job. There is a point where if we're applying to be a director of software engineering, I love that you were a cash register worker when you were in college, but we don't need that there anymore. So I would say pick maybe your top 5 to 10, get them on there, really just for the search engine optimization. But I did want to circle back. I had a thought, we didn't even discuss this beforehand, Ben, with the education and the certifications. What about awards? I like to see awards. What about you?
Awards? Absolutely. Yeah. And matter of fact, I think if you look at mine, I've got a section just for my awards on
Oh,
my
I
site.
jumped ahead.
But yeah, no, not in the presentation, but on my LinkedIn profile. I apologize. I could have stated it better. Yeah, no, going back to what Ciara was saying a moment ago. If you've won a President's Club award, if you've won, a top performer award or what have you within the framework of your work, I'd have it there. It's good to see, good to show. Again, it shows the impact that you've had on an organization from your peers and from your leaders standpoint. Nice. So yeah, I'm all about awards. Advertise them, taunt them, flaunt them if you have to on your end. So yeah.
And I would say, like, it doesn't even have to be a high level, like a president's club or a chairman's, any kind of award. You won employee of the month, anything like that, I would put on there because it just, again, it's going to make you real. It's going to help add to your story. And it just shows that you are hardworking. So like when I was at the Y, I won a Bright Spot Award. What does that mean? Nobody knows, but it shows that I was there doing something, right?
2014 Bright Spot Award winner, Ciara.
Yeah. So
That's awesome. I love that. Now that I have some of my old recruiting awards on my page right now. You can scroll down and see it. So yeah, I'm a big believer in that. It shows, it adds extra value and weight to your story.
and it
So
shows you really were, I mean, more or less shows that you are doing what you said you were doing and just adds to that story.
absolutely. The last thing I'll speak to on the LinkedIn portion, at least for now, when it comes to your profile, is recommendations. And this is where I actually do believe it's very important. If you've got folks out there that can speak publicly to your background, to your experience, to the work that you did for them, I'd have them write those recommendations. I've got a number of them. I know, many people in my field, that's something that we talk about a lot. Again, it just adds credibility to your profile to have previous leaders and previous peers saying great things about you in a public forum. So
Yes. So when we get off this call, everybody go send out an email blast or a LinkedIn blast to, it doesn't have to be just your higher ups. It can be your equal level coworkers. It can be former people that you just have a great working relationship with. And they don't have to write something super in depth, but just anything they can say about your work style, your impact on the team, your impact on the company. Again, it's just going to add to that story for you. And this, I would say, not completely, but has almost taken over the references available upon request section from a resume, because they're right there on your page.
I agree. And obviously, companies are still want to talk to your references, but I definitely agree with what she just said about the references upon request portion, and having that very public facing view of folks that are accounting for your ability and for your strengths is a great thing. I'll throw one other little layer on top of what she had just mentioned about superiors and peers of a moment ago. If you're a leader, if you're a manager, and you've got people underneath you that can speak very well of you in terms of your management abilities and the impact that you've had on their career, I think that's important too. So even if it's a subordinate, having a subordinate or two that says, "Hey, I worked with Shelly at Acme Incorporated. She was a great and dynamic leader." Blah blah blah. I would seek those out as well if you feel like you've got one or two strong people out there that can speak to your ability and pour into their careers. Definitely think that's important. So
And
from
I
that
will
standpoint.
just add that LinkedIn does let you approve. They won't just show up on your profile. So if, I Ben really annoyed me and I just went and wrote a scathing review on his LinkedIn for him, he could turn it off. So you do have control there.
Hopefully, I don't annoy you to that point. So, yeah, no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, the other things I would say, just kind of broadly about LinkedIn, from a you perspective, from your profile perspective, there is an option near the top where you can pin articles that you've written, you know, maybe even posts that you've written that have had an impact and things of that nature. If you go to my LinkedIn, you'll see several on there, including the announcement that I made when I was coming back to SNI. I left SNI for a long time and then came back in October. That's another story for another day. But yeah, you can have pinned articles up there, any thought pieces that you've written, videos that you've made, and things of that nature. If you've got some things that you feel are real dynamic and could be added to the top, that can be another feather in your cap, for lack of a better phrase, I would pin some good posts up there as well. So it's publicly viewable as you scroll down. But that's kind of where we are on that front. I think I said pretty much all I would like to say on this end, but I'll yield the floor to Ciara. Do you have anything else that you'd like to add on the optimization side?
Yeah, I was going to say before we move on to networking that there is an option on LinkedIn that based on your profile, it will spit you out a resume. Now, that is not my favorite format of resume. I don't like the PDF resumes. We talked about this last month, but do that and look at it and then compare it to your resume and see what you need to bring over, right? Because I would like all of that great detail that we went through on your resume last month on your LinkedIn profile.
I do. I agree with that wholly. So I can second that motion, for lack of a better phrase. Cool. Well, we'll jump over a little bit and talk about networking and kind of just broadly like we did previously just a moment ago. But before I even really start talking about how to engage and so on and so forth, I want to think something big picture for you. Um, I'm a firm believer that having a powerful network, whether you're looking for a job, as many of you are right now, or whether you're happy in your job, uh, having a strong network is a very, very beneficial thing to have. There's an old saying: if you never want to be thirsty, learn to dig a proper well. Um, I'm a big believer in that, right? Because you never know when job circumstances can change. Even if you land your next role and you're there for the next 5 years and you're working for the greatest boss of all time, bosses leave, companies have layoffs. We've experienced this before, right? So having a just an overall statement of it's important to be a well-networked individual in general, I think is something that I wanted to lead off with in terms of this section. You know, any thoughts on that before I dive? I love the comment that network to get work, rinse, repeat. Love that.
That's
Any thoughts on
awesome.
your side, Ciara, before we dive into the networking piece?
Yeah, I will give some anecdotal evidence. My dad does supply chain optimization. He has been with his company since the year I was born. And he's always asking me, he's like, why are these people connecting with me on LinkedIn? And I'm like, accept them, grow your network. And he's like, nah, I'm going to be here, until I retire. And I'm like, you might not be. I mean, he probably will in his specific circumstance, but you never know. So it's always better because it's free, it's easy. Just accept them, connect with that recruiter because now once you connect with me, you're not just connected with me, you're now a second degree connection with the 9,000 people in my network. So just always, and unless it looks like a spam account, I will, preface that, but it's always better to grow your network.
Now, as far as networking philosophy, I say this every time as well. Um, Professionalism is always paramount, right? So how you're engaging individuals, not just in terms of sending out a LinkedIn connection request, but even within the news feed of LinkedIn and so on and so forth. It is very important to, in my opinion, to always give a good account of yourself, right? And how you're reaching out to folks, how you're interacting on posts around LinkedIn, how you're interacting with companies and so on and so forth. So just let that kind of be the underlying underbelly, if you will, of that statement from before. You know, I I look at networking from a hands-on networking perspective, really in two ponds. One, obviously, you're connecting to peers, you're connecting to individuals that may be future bosses for you, things of that nature. But you're also connecting to companies and things of that nature. So now, when it comes down to you utilizing LinkedIn as a networking tool, try to think of it within those two buckets. And we'll speak a little bit more to the company side in just a few minutes, but especially when it comes to reaching out to peer level. If you're out there and you're in the market, you're actively looking for work, etc. Now, be thinking about, who do I need to reach out to in this organization that can either A, tell me a little bit about this organization, or B, let me let them know who I am, right? As I look to engage these opportunities and see what opportunities are available, and so on and so forth. So target individuals, in my opinion, of people that are of your kind of level of an organization and maybe a level above when you're reaching out to organizations as a whole. If you find a company, you say, hey, I'd like to work for Home Depot's corporate office, which I hear through my friend network from time to time. Look for individuals that have similar titles to yours, and then folks that would be maybe one level above that could either A, be a hiring influence over that individual, or would have good insight into that organization, into those teams that you'd like to work for. Not everyone's going to accept your request. Let's be honest, going back to Ciara's dad, we'll use him as an example. He maybe hasn't, why do I need to reach out to this person? But the ones that do, those are the relationships that you can build from that standpoint. Any thoughts there, Ciara?
I would say just be mindful of the messages that you're sending out, especially if you apply to a job and you reach out to the recruiter. We know the automatic template that LinkedIn builds for you because I get, 50 of them for every rec. So really personalizing your message, take the extra 10 seconds that I applied for this job and this is why I feel I would be a great candidate. List out your skills, what have you. That's going to, weigh a lot heavier and I'm much more likely to respond. I do try and respond to all my LinkedIn messages, but real messages are ones that you're going to more likely get a response on. With the same thought, if you're reaching out, make sure it is the recruiter or the hiring manager who you're reaching out to. I do, again, I'm sure you do as well, Ben. I get a lot of messages for roles that aren't mine, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't help you. I'm not assigned to that.
Yeah,
I'm not working that. Or people who just send me their resume that I've never met. I don't know them, and they're like, "Hey, can you fix my resume for me?" No, but so just be mindful. You can send it out and say, hey, I was looking at your company. I saw a few jobs that I'm interested in. Can you think of anything that might be a fit? Or I'd love to connect with you, and not ask the other person to immediately do you a favor, but try and, either bring something to the conversation or make it even. What do you think, Ben?
I agree wholeheartedly on that front. I'll play off of something you said a moment ago as far as can you review or revise my resume. I do a lot of networking on LinkedIn, public facing. So in the newsfeed, I'm writing one or two posts a day about industry insights, about roles that I've got active on them, active that I'm searching for. I mentioned my autism speaks and the stuff earlier, my autism awareness stuff that I do. I'm a board member for Autism Speaks, so every Friday I write a post about my work with those guys, something tangential to the autism community, to build awareness and so on and so forth. I'm doing all these things, and I say all that to say this: when I post things, I share a lot of resources and guides in the recruiting space, the employment space, and it never fails. If I have something that goes even semi-viral, I get a bunch of resume revision requests. Well, that's not what I do, and not that I am not a guy that would not want to help you, but if I get 15 requests to revise resumes on a Thursday, and I've got my day-to-day job to do as well, it makes me feel bad to have to tell 15 people, hey, I'm not really the guy for that. Here's a great resource that I know. I always reference my friend Sarah Johnston. She's outstanding. If you're an executive looking to have a resume review or LinkedIn review, I would highly recommend her. But I recommend people that I know in the space. And then sometimes that can get a little bit of a counter spike because they think I'm offering them a service for free. I'm not, right? I'm offering my network and I'm offering what I know. But yes, that's a little side tangent. But be very mindful. I say all that to say this: be very mindful about how you're approaching individuals, even if they put themselves out there on LinkedIn as someone that can help. Speak to the things that they can help you with, right? Don't go around that. Don't go kind of sidebar to it. And certainly don't go into it thinking that you're just going to get like this great free service when that may not be what they're offering, right? So just be mindful of that. Thoughts? Am I crazy in saying that, Ciara? Was that a okay add to bring to the presentation here?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And we would do very well if we started a side gig doing resumes. And I absolutely will do them for like friends and family and people I know personally. But again, if I wouldn't reach out to somebody like an app developer that I've never met and been like, hey, I've got this great idea. I want you to build this game for me, for free. So it's the same kind of mindset there.
Talk a little bit about like how to basically build out a strong network through groups and through connecting with influencers in the industries as well. Look, it doesn't really matter what you do for a profession. There are groups on LinkedIn that you can get into and join and network with individuals of those groups. I'm a firm believer in. I have groups out there for IT professionals that I've had for 10 years. Some of them I haven't even touched. They're pretty dormant. Some of the ones I did at the start of my career, but I've got groups out there that I'm very much a part of within the recruiting space, things of that nature. It's just good to it's good to be among peers, right? They're always going to be telling you about open opportunities. They're going to be telling you about industry insights. They may be talking about some new trends and technologies that you might need to know and things of that nature. It's group intel is always a good thing to have. I'm a big believer in joining and participating in groups that are relevant to your career interest. Thoughts on your side, Ciara?
Yeah, so I am actually going to follow up later this afternoon after the meeting. I get the transcript. I'm going to get some resources out, but I'm going to be building a LinkedIn group for us here so we can all get connected, grow our networks that way, share resources. So, yes, absolutely. It's never a bad thing to have more people in your network and to be connected, and you never know who knows who and what, something's just going to fall into your lap.
And then on the reverse end of that, as far as like speaking with individuals that may be very influential in your industry, I'll give a personal example. I now consider myself good friends with two of probably the most known recruiters on LinkedIn, Adam Karpiak and Joel Alge. Now they're both different. They're different types of cats when it comes to what they do and so on and so forth. But they're very well known in the recruitment space, and we're in each other's DMs about every other day, connecting and talking about stuff and things of that nature. I like to interact with their post. It gives me visibility, but it also helps me build their audience as well. So it's kind of a mutual give and take from that standpoint. But even beyond that, just being able to interact with those individuals, building relationships with them, there's a lot of stuff out there. Again, pretty much for every industry. It doesn't just have to be great recruiters. There's a lot of things out there that you can engage with and build into when it comes to other people's posts that will pay back in kind on some level. That's just kind of a broad way of saying it, but it makes you more visible within the spaces that you're looking through and looking for. Thoughts on that, Ciara?
Yeah, and we're not saying you need to post every single day or at 10 o'clock
Yep.
every Thursday, but just being active in general. Because when a recruiter is looking at your profile, the way it works for most of us is we have so many credits and so many mails that we can send out. So if I'm, running up on my credits for the month and I see a profile that you've never posted anything and you haven't been active in a long time, I might save that credit and message somebody else. But if I see somebody is actively engaged, they're more likely to respond to me.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, it's funny to me, and this may be true of even some of you all. I don't know how often you all are on LinkedIn right now, right? You might have just gotten this email from myself or Ciara and said, "Hey, I want to join this. This sounds interesting." But yes, that engagement piece and activity piece is something that we do look at. If I'm, especially if I'm advertising a role on LinkedIn or I'm out there looking for individuals that are within the field set of what I'm looking to hire, right? I am looking to see, have they been active in the last 2 weeks, or has it been 2.5 years since they last posted anything or last updated their profile, right? Because that can be a tell that you might not even be on LinkedIn. So just be on there, be active, and be engaged as a whole. Like, LinkedIn is, again, it's a very highly utilized resource in our world, and the more you're playing in that pond, the more likely you are to be seen. So I'll just speak to that broadly. I do believe LinkedIn is a very valuable tool when it comes to researching, companies as a whole. You can go to a company page and learn pretty much everything you would want to learn about that company in 30 minutes, in my opinion, just by doing that. You got access to their website. You've got access to materials that are out there that may be in industry news about that organization. You can see every leader they've got in the organization just by clicking on the people section. And you can see what jobs they currently have. And that's going to be what's most important to you all anyway, from that standpoint, right? There's a lot of things you can find out about an organization just by getting on their LinkedIn company page and swimming around for a little bit. Certainly, you've got cross-reference tools that you can go to study company reputations, what their employees are saying about those organizations from a whole, getting past that corporate marketing sphere that LinkedIn may be, using those Glassdoors and other related sites to kind of cross-reference that and build a little bit of a story of whether or not you would like to work there or not. One thing I like to do with companies, and a lot of times you will find this on a company LinkedIn page, is going to their company YouTube and watching their video material. What are they putting out there? What are they saying about the work environment? What are their workers saying about the work environment publicly within those phrases? And then beyond that, what cool things and what cool projects and what cool things are they doing as a whole, right? As an organization. And now we all know Home Depot. We may not know that 50-person startup shop that could completely revitalize Home Depot's business model in the next 5 years. We live in 2024. Those things happen in this day and age. Empires rise and fall when it comes to business in our world in this span. It seems like it's happening with more frequency now, obviously. But just some things to think about from using a company's LinkedIn page as kind of a landing point to branch out into other things that you can use to study those organizations. Thoughts on your side, Ciara?
What I really like to look at, and this could just be me personally, but I like going on a company page and looking at pictures, and I'm not looking for pictures that marketing puts up and stock images and whatnot. I want to see pictures from events. I want to see pictures of the office because it gives you such and I don't want to say it gives you the vibe, but it gives you the vibe of the office. You can feel the company culture through the image, and a lot of times know whether or not you might be a good fit in that particular office just from looking at some of these images.
Certainly, if you're looking for a dynamic workspace and you log on to a LinkedIn company page and see nothing but cubicles or whatnot, that might not, it might be a tell, right? Things of that nature. That's a good point. Any other overarching thoughts that you have kind of around the networking between people in company space? I don't want to
I
overspeak
would
here, but
say before we move into researching jobs, I would just like to leave the caveat that I wouldn't post or interact with anything on LinkedIn that you wouldn't be comfortable putting in the bulletin in your break room. So there is a difference between your professional and your personal brand, and you can be passionate and outspoken about things. Ben and I mention all the time things that we're interested in. But I'm not going to talk about anything political on my profile page. It's just gonna cause arguments. I'm not going to post pictures of my beach vacation. I'm not going to message people about dating. And these are all things that I've seen in like the last week. Just again, keep it very business professional. If you wouldn't want your boss seeing it, if you wouldn't want it in the break room, just save it for Facebook.
absolutely. I'll buffer that by saying this. I actually wrote a post about this last night, pretty
I
much
saw it this
verbatim of
morning.
what she's talking about. Yeah. So yesterday was obviously a big day, and regardless of what side you are politically, and I don't want to know in the chat section, do not tell me whether you're left or right. But yesterday was a big day in the political sphere because of the stuff that happened up in New York. Obviously it's a turbulent time politically right now as a whole. What I don't want to do now or ever, and what I don't want to see any of you do now or ever, is I don't want to be scrolling through my newsfeed and seeing you in a 15 bullet point argument with three other people about your stance on whatever your stance is from yesterday, right? So keep politics out of it on this end as much as you can. Now, obviously, if you work for Politico and you want to have a post on it at that point, then it becomes relevant to your work. But other than that, it's just best and wise to stay out of conversations that are not going to make you look good on any level when it comes to professional. Because I always tell people this: if I can see it, your boss can see it. If your boss can see it, his boss can see it. Make everybody from your mama to your CEO happy with your LinkedIn presence and stay out of those arguments. Okay, just leaving it at that. So.
Yep, that is, I think, the perfect way to wrap that up. It's one of those, I shouldn't have to say it, but let me make sure I cover it.
Do it. Let's just talk about it. Cool. I'll let you kind of head the next section here, and I'll jump in right here with you. I know that we want to talk a little bit about how to research jobs and things of that nature. I'll be right here with you.
Um, yeah, so researching jobs and companies on LinkedIn, I guess we did start to touch on this a little bit. But again, it is a wonderful tool, and you can almost flip the advice that we gave you about your profile back onto the company. So you can look at the, reviews that employees left. You can go in and see who works there and go look at their profiles. Again, going to give you kind of the feel of the type of people who are there, the type of people you would be interacting with. Do we want to talk about profiles, Ben? Do we want to talk about the search tool specifically? Where do you want to start?
Start with profiles, because I'll play off of what you said a moment ago. I think that, for example, you can tell a lot about a work environment by what people are actually putting on their profiles, technologies that are found within that organization. If you're an IT person, right, things of that nature, you can do some company research without even having to quote unquote go to a job title. And I'll use the example. I'm literally working this situation right now. I've got a consulting company down in Florida that is looking for folks of a particular networking system and experience. I can go into people's profiles within an organization and find maybe 3 to 5 people within the organization that have Juniper on their profile. I know that Juniper might be a pretty heavy part of their infrastructure, for lack of a better phrase. So yeah, little bit of a sidebar topic there, but that's something that you can do to learn a little bit about a company as far as like what technologies and so on and so forth they're using if you're an IT guy or gal looking at companies on the whole. As far as job searching is concerned, I look at this also twofold, and I'll transition smoothly as I can to the next portion of that. LinkedIn has some advanced job search filters that you can utilize and tap into to identify roles that are going to tap into your skill sets, right? And then however you want to layer it out from there. But you can certainly get into Boolean searching, I think, through the job searching features as well,
Mhm.
and treat it from that aspect of it. Ciara, do you want to talk a little bit about Boolean? I think you might be a good person to utilize for that, as far as how to use it for a job search.
Yes, so I will go there, but I wanted to go back. I had a thought a second ago when we
Go
were
ahead. I'm
talking
sorry.
about LinkedIn groups. If you work on a niche technology, I don't know, say you're a Ruby on Rails developer and you're in a Ruby on Rails group, if you go and look, on who's in your Ruby on Rails group and look at all the companies that they work at, guess what they're using. So you can kind of
Right.
reverse search that way. And then if you've, interacted with this person a lot, you might even be able to get a warm welcome, an introduction into the hiring manager or the recruiter over there that way. So just kind of circling back to that. But yes, so LinkedIn has probably some of my favorite search tools for jobs. So a Boolean is a search string that contains and or statements. So if I was looking for a job, I might search recruit or recruiter, put that in parentheses, and then come on to my next phrase. So you're gonna, and I'll post something, I'll share something after kind of breaking this down like really in depth for y'all, but you're going to want to group words together and group similar words. So if I'm, say, a Java developer, and forgive me, I'm not the Java expert, but I might put like Java or JavaScript or Java Spring, and I can feel Max yelling at me because I feel like those are different things. But that gives you that gives you an idea. You can post all of these words together in an or statement, parentheses, and your next thing. So I can put developer or engineer or designer or architect or all of these similar phrases, because if I'm looking for, and I always say software engineer job, but this one's called Java developer, it's really the same thing, but it's not going to come up in my search. So making your search as wide as you can that way. LinkedIn also has some really great like toggle on and offs. So you can see if it is a contract role, you can see if it is a hybrid or work from home role, things like that. I will caveat that a lot of times if a role, and this isn't always true, if you see a position and it's posting an hourly salary, that's probably a good sign that it's a contract position.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's an excellent point there. I think that sometimes people get tripped up on that. So I thank you for saying that out loud on your end. Yeah, look, the thing I'll say just to kind of broadly cover all of that with the Boolean search, you can broaden or narrow as specifically as you want to do within the framework of what you're searching for, which is really from the reverse end from myself. I like to get to as narrow a pond as I can get to in terms of candidates first, and then I can expand mine out. If you want to do what I would call a home run search and look for that that job that's got all of your 5 core skill sets that you want to utilize in your next role, you can attach that with a bunch of ands, jump into the job search, see what comes up, and then you can play with it and expand that pool out a little bit as well. Kind of broadly speaking over the whole job search feature, I want to say this just as a whole. If you're out there and you're actively looking for work right now, which I know many of you are, just remember it's a full-time job to get a job. So, certainly being LinkedIn and being these other tools, being very scripted and being very organized with your time that you're doing so on your end, just to take that time and to be out there, utilizing that time frame to find what you're looking for. You know, from job alerts and job searches, you can save those things as well. So if you build a really good job search that's feeding you some good opportunities now, 5 days from now, there may be another job that pops up in your area or geography that you're searching within that would not have been captured by the previous search that you had. You can save alerts on that to where you're going to get an email on that that'll say, hey, uh, McDonald's has this great new opportunity that ties to your search from 3 days ago, and would you like to hear about it? You'll have that land in your inbox. It's just another job description for you to look at. To easy apply or not to easy apply. So here I'm going to give that one to you, and then I'll give you my thoughts.
I love Easy Apply. Every job I have posted, I think I put Easy Apply. Sometimes I have like one question that like this is in office. Are you willing to drive to Atlanta? Because I will get remote people. But I personally, and if I'm on the job search for 3 months, maybe I'll change my answer. I am not going to go to your website and type my resume back in 3 different times and copy and paste all of this stuff. It is such a mess. I think if my candidate has a strong resume, that's all I need to know. And maybe like 2 or 3 questions like, your citizenship? Do you need a work visa? Are you local? And like, do you hold this certification or something if that's core to the job? But yes, easy apply. I love it. I nothing against it. It is my favorite. The only caveat I will put is I coach 70% of the core requirements I would like for you to have if you're going to apply for a job. Um, I give the example a lot of when I'm working high level software engineering jobs, I get a lot of applications that are like Austin and Max, who just graduated from college and had a 3 month internship and now think they're ready to be director of software engineering making 200K. Like I love that ambition, but let's rein it back in a little bit. So look at the very core of the job, and if you maybe don't have some of the preferred, but you have like 70% of the core qualifications, I would say go for it. Hit that easy apply. Make sure that the resume link to your easy apply is your most recent. It will give you the option to share your contact information with the recruiter. It's on your resume already, so I would go ahead and do that. Just makes it easier for us to reach out to you. But yes, I am big fan. So
I
I'll stop rambling about easy apply. I'll let you take it.
I'll just say this. I second Ciara on that. I always laugh at the companies that have like the duplication resume efforts when it comes to, hey, you apply here. Oh, now you have to attach it here and you have to do these things. And I just give me a quick functionality and we'll go with that. Speaking to something she referred to a moment ago, when it comes to understanding your current employment skill level, et cetera. If you're a software developer one, you're on there and you're applying to a bunch of like software engineering manager or whatnot roles, it's probably not going to work out in your favor. Do take some time to look over those job descriptions and follow Ciara's 70% rule. I think it's probably a good way to say that. Um, Look, I'm a big believer in shooting your shot in a lot of areas in life. I don't know that job applications was really the one that I would aim for the most on that side, as far as like just going well above. Now, granted, if you get a conversation, you belong in the room and that sort of thing. But more often than not, companies are looking to have folks that are, it's either where they are now or their next level of opportunity for growth, right? And just be mindful of that. Always look to assess your job fit, because that's going to save you some time, but even beyond that, it'll save the company some time as well. Trying to think if there's anything else that I can think of along these lines.
No,
Love
I
that.
think we've kind of covered everything. I do want to jump over into the Q&A real quick because we are coming up on time. But I did want to quickly comment. I've seen all the memes. I know the like, you're mad at your job, so you're easy applying, during your happy hour, whatever. Just make sure you are reading those. Give them a quick once over. If I have candidates that I have seen multiple times applying for roles that they are nowhere near qualified for. And it does just kind of leave a bad taste um, in your mouth as a recruiter. If I have like 6 recs that are completely different that I'm working and you've applied for every single one, you can be a director of software engineering and a project manager and, a level 1 help desk and a janitor. Like it's strange.
What do we have in the questions area? My green light's
All
actually
right.
blank.
Let's see. Get me off my tangent. Ben, would you do this on your resume as well to make sure they match? Oh, so she's talking about changing your job title. Change your job title on your resume and your LinkedIn. We would say to the same thing.
I would, yeah. I think keeping it congruent, going back to what we were saying about that, I think is important. Yeah, I would just to be short and sweet with that.
Yeah. This is an interesting one. So we have Brendan in the chat here, and sorry, I don't have to have you pronounce here. He runs for office and worked in politics. Should he put that on his LinkedIn? He wants to show his leadership, but he doesn't want to turn off potential employers.
Yeah, I think I would. If you're running for an office or things. As a matter of fact, I'll just tell you this. I saw that in this very district that I live in today. I saw a gentleman basically announcing that he's running for state senate against an incumbent. Now, it wasn't a situation where he was trashing the incumbent. I think LinkedIn is probably one area where you don't want to do that. But yeah, if you're running for an office, state senator candidate for seat 48 or whatever. I have no problem with that. Maybe link to your website, but I wouldn't be on LinkedIn actively talking about, if it's me. And Ciara, you can agree or disagree. I'll hear your voice as well, but I wouldn't be on there actively talking about the controversial topics and stuff like that of the day. Your thoughts, Ciara?
I would keep controversial topics off, especially while you're job hunting. But again, with the caveat of things that I don't think should be controversial. So if you are running and maybe you're very pro, I don't know, we'll say like inclusivity in the workplace, you're pro LGBTQ or whatever, and that's really something important to you and your values and your campaign, maybe go ahead and put it because that is something that's important, but I wouldn't focus on those areas.
Dive too deep in the meat of it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, I haven't actually played with this one yet, Ben. Have you used the new verify feature?
So, short version that I tried. I tried and did not succeed. They were asking for some information that I wasn't quite comfortable giving. This literally happened to me last week. That's why I'm telling you this story. I think I had to take a screenshot of my driver's license and all of that front and back,
Yeah.
and I was a little hesitant on that one. So I backed out. Look, I do think it's to everyone's discretion, right? What information you want to have out there, or put into the internet. Fire it off into the internet, as the old saying goes. But yeah, yeah, and I think that I might have bumped into that as well, Brandon, because clear is the verification for LinkedIn. But I didn't even get that far. When it got to the license portion, I was like, I'm gonna hold off on that. But yeah.
Well, you beat me. I stopped at the selfie because I was in bed on my phone and I was like, I'm not turning on the lights to take a picture. But yeah, I would
Oh,
say if
one
you
step behind you.
feel comfortable doing it, it doesn't hurt, but I wouldn't put too much weight into it.
I wouldn't put a lot of emphasis on it either. I see what you're saying about the fake profile section. We do bump into that. I still wouldn't worry about it from that standpoint.
I think
Yeah.
it's very easy to tell if somebody is a legitimate real person on LinkedIn. They've posted before, there's a picture, they are connected with more than two people. Um, it I don't think the verify is necessary.
I see the question. Can I answer Shree's question here about do premium members have a better chance of showing up in searches? My belief on that is yes. Having a premium license gives you more visibility. I would certainly search for that just to confirm that to be true, but I believe that is the case. If you've got a premium, it gets pushed to a higher stage, if you will. So,
Yeah, I think that's one of the things you're paying for is it will show up
yeah,
outside your network. But again, you can grow your network organically because I know LinkedIn Premium is not inexpensive. I think it's like $30 a month.
it can be a little interesting. Then there's multiple layers of that, multiple offerings that they have. But yes.
Let's see. We do have a lot going on in the chat. I want to hit on as much of it without going over time. If you're in multiple career paths, would you have multiple LinkedIn accounts, Ben? I'm gut instinct is no, but I want to hear your thoughts.
I would agree with your gut instinct. I would also say no. I think one LinkedIn is sufficient. I have seen people that will, they'll list like multiple experiences on their LinkedIn profile, if you will. So like, they may be actively use me as an example on some level. I don't get paid by Autism Speaks, but I do a lot of work for those guys as a board member. So I'm actively talking about that. That's obviously very different than being a recruiter, but I speak to both sides, right? Because it can lead to opportunities and avenues in both arenas. I've seen people that if you've got two jobs, you may have like a 40-hour, your Monday through Friday 40-hour gig, and then your side hustle that you're trying to make your career. I would list both of those, and I would be fine with that.
I would just make sure it's very clear on your page that, this is like part-time or this is a side gig, and you can explain that in your summary. And I believe LinkedIn lets you say whether the job is full-time or part-time or something like that, just so it doesn't look like you're working 3 full-time jobs, because that could be a little confusing.
I'll say this about the questions too. If we don't answer your question, send it to me in a LinkedIn message. I'll answer it privately or answer it directly on my side as well if we run out of time with this. Ciara, any other thoughts or any other things that you have to read off of there? Any other questions you want to get to?
I know we are like at time, but I will take one or two more. How should you respond to someone who you connect with professionally who sends personal message? Is it the best option just to unconnect? Oh, so somebody who sends you something that makes you uncomfortable? is I think what I'm getting from that.
We talk, just to ask it directly, we're talking about like maybe a gentleman that's sending an unwanted flirtation, if you will, or things of that nature.
This person didn't clarify, but for me, that would be an immediate block.
I would also recommend disconnecting that individual at the very least. Just make sure that yeah, you set the parameters for how you communicate, right? And that's broad. That's not just on the example that I gave a moment ago. But if you're getting folks that are sending things that you don't want to engage in conversation wise, the remove connection button is always an option. So, and block is a good one as well to use Ciara's from a moment ago. So.
I am quick to block, which goes back to being professional on LinkedIn. I get a lot of too warm messages, and nope, I'm not going to engage with you. I wouldn't engage with you in real life if you spoke to me that way. So I'm definitely not going to engage with you in a professional setting.
Right.
All right. So what I am going to do, get us wrapped up, because I have a lot of questions coming in about kind of wrap up things. So what I'm going to do is thank you, Clint. Sometime this afternoon, I am going to send out an email. I'm going to have kind of a high level overview of this meeting outlined for you. All of our webinars are uploaded on my company Agile's website. If you go to Agile and it is just go to agile.com and you go to for candidates, for job seekers, there are our open positions. We have, I think, like 50 open positions right now. And I know Ben's company has even more over at S&I. But we also have some resources for you, as well as all of our webinars there. As I mentioned, I'm also going to create a LinkedIn group so that we can all get connected, share and grow our networks, and I will share resources there as well. But this meeting in the next hour or so will be up, and last month is already up on gotoagile.com. And I think that is everything. Do you have anything else, Ben, before we head out?
I'll speak broadly just real quickly. First things first, thank you guys for attending today. We love this kind of engagement. This is fantastic. I want to see more and more of this over time. You are always welcome to join these webinars. I want you to join the groups that we build out off of this. If you're not connected with me, I want you to connect with me. I'll help you any way that I can with resources that I have. And certainly look forward to engaging with you all going forward. I wish you nothing but the best in your job search, whether we're the ones that get you that job or not. That's what we're here for, is to help. I'll speak to one other thing that she mentioned a moment ago about Agile. I do work for a different division of G Group called S&I. There are multiple functionalities of S&I. You got S&I Financial, Technology, etc. You can go to if you go to group.com, that's our parent website, and it's got every organization under the umbrella underneath that, including their job boards and what they do as a whole. So if you're out there looking for work, feel free to go to geegroup.com, geegroup.com, and that will take you where you need to be for the overall company umbrella. But Ciara and I, we're both very appreciative of you for attending today. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you again. Anything that we didn't get to answer, message either myself or Ben on LinkedIn. You should have our emails as well. I believe they were on the sign up. It's just our name and our company. But yes, anything we can do to help, we are here for it. You are our group. You are not strangers reaching out, asking us to fix your resume. We are part of the same community. So thank you so much for your time. Hopefully.
I have one other thing to add. If you enjoyed today's presentation, feel free to share that on LinkedIn as well. We'd like to see more people next time. Go ahead. I'm so sorry. Yeah.
You're good. I was going to say next month we are going to be diving into the interview processes, do's and don'ts, tips and tricks, all that sort of thing. Hopefully this is helpful and this will make it your last Friday on the job hunt. Thanks, everyone.
Take care, guys. Have a great day.